question that you have to ask yourself is, what is the intention behind you wanting to go abroad? A lot of different people come from different backgrounds, come from different and varying mindsets, and they go abroad for different reasons, and their intentions can be completely different and completely separate from one another. A certain set, let's call this set A, group of people would, let's say, go abroad because they want to just have fun, have a gala time, get good education, and actually just take that experience and come back to India, and they most probably have the money for it. A second set of people would probably want to go abroad because they want to, it's like a last resort they have, and they're probably 18 or they're 21 or they're 22 or they're 23, and they're either doing their BA or their MA, or they're thinking about wanting to do it, and after doing that they want to work there, get a work visa and just settle there. So these are the two groups of people that we have, and we'll be discussing the question, should you go abroad for higher education, in great depth and in great detail. But before we do that, welcome back to my channel, guys. It's me, Swastika, and in case you haven't subscribed to my channel, then please do so already. There's a red button at the bottom of the screen. You guys can go and click it, and in case you are old subscribers, then welcome back after a long time for another one of my interesting videos. Okay, so guys, another thing I want to say is that you should definitely check out my Poshmark, which goes by the name Swastika Sharma, and in case you haven't already installed the app, you should definitely go ahead and install it, because it's a great way of promoting slow and sustainable fashion. So a lot of the clothes that we purchase from markets and from different places and different brands and shops, we tend to not wear them, and we tend to just wear them once and they're just in our closet for a very long period of time. So Poshmark is a brilliant app that will actually help you get rid of your closet. It's a lot like cleaning out your closet, and it's working on the principle that everyone has something to sell. So you guys should definitely check out my Poshmark. You can purchase my outfits if you want to. I've put a lot of stuff there, and if you use my code is Swastika Sharma with no space in between, you'll actually get $250 off on the first purchase. So you guys should definitely check it out, and you can also check out my thrift page on Instagram, which goes by the name Sick Thrifts. The link is of course in the description below. Okay, so guys, let's come back to the topic. The topic is that, should you actually go abroad for higher education? A lot of the points that I've actually come up with here have been supplemented and given to me, and I've had conversations with my friends who went abroad for 4 years and they're going abroad again. I have friends who are in USA, I have friends who are in UK, I also have friends who are in Canada and Australia. So a lot of thinking has gone into this, and I think you can definitely take away a little from this video. Okay, so a certain set of people say that yes, we do in fact want to go abroad. The simple reason that they quote for this is that they think that the quality of education abroad in countries like USA, in countries like UK, in countries like Canada and Australia is in fact better. They say it's better because the student ratio is less, because your peer group is probably going to be more driven towards studying. It's you're going to have access to more facilities. There are going to be more facilities. The teachers are going to focus on areas that you are weak in. And the biggest of the reasons that a lot of people quote for wanting to actually go abroad is that they think that at a bachelor's and a master's level, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of what you want to learn. So this means that if you are, let's say, a student who's doing something in tech, who's doing a BA in tech, you can at the same point in time look for subjects that are related to art, to culture, to something that is very, very contrary to your specialization. And I think one example that I would like to quote in this case is probably going to be Steve Jobs. So before Steve Jobs went and invented one of the biggest companies, which is called Apple, I think a lot of people know that, he actually went and learned calligraphy. And because he went and he learned calligraphy, he was in a position to put in fonts. Fonts as in different kinds and styles of writing. It's like a design thing in the laptops. So if it wasn't for Steve Jobs, most of our laptops today would have a very similar font, and none of us would be actually wanting to experiment with the design of the fonts. So when you go to these universities, they try to make you believe in an intersection of different spaces, and these spaces can be humanities and technology. These spaces can be business. A lot of people who are doing accounting and business can at the same point in time learn philosophy. So there's a lot of flexibility that comes with the courses that you can actually engage in. In India, on the other hand, if you want to go for like a master's or for a BA in India, there are very few places that actually support that kind of studying. In fact, the way our courses are designed is actually more rigid because it's more subject specific. So that means that if you're doing engineering, you may not necessarily be wanting to learn calligraphy. You may not necessarily be in a position to even learn philosophy. So these are all the things that that is slightly rigid in the Indian education system. So this is also one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people want to go there. The third point that we came up with in terms of why a lot of students want to go abroad is also because they think that the curriculum there is more writing intensive. So it's not just like sitting for an IIT entrance and just chugging down facts and remembering facts, but it's also about being in a position to think critically. So in India, there are very few spaces that promote that kind of thinking, and I think JNU is one of them. But once you go abroad, and a lot of people say that going to USA and doing a degree there is a lot like entering the land of dreams, the land of opportunities, and you can actually experiment and do so many things there, because those are one of the few places in the world that support critical thinking a lot, and their curriculum is not necessarily going to objectively revolve around remembering facts and remembering dates and that being the the test of intelligence, but rather it is going to revolve around things that are more subtle in nature, and that means it's going to probably be more writing intensive. It's going to promote critical thinking, all of the things that are slightly amiss in places like India, where we have a slightly more rigid education system. Also, we have to keep in mind that in India specifically, we do understand that you can do a lot of things, but in India, the cost of education is going to be very less for Indian citizens. So you can enroll in a DU college, and you can just finish that degree in a fraction of the cost that you can finish and wrap up a degree in America or Europe or anywhere in Canada or Australia from. So it's also a question of money. If you have the money and you want to explore new avenues and you want to just go there and have fun and come back with a degree, and you want to settle in India, it's a great option. You should definitely go for it. And so this was one of the few things that I wanted to say. But if you're somebody who doesn't come from a background which is very well off and very rich, then you'll probably have to apply for scholarships. There are a lot of scholarships like Fulbright scholarship, and you can just do a lot of research. There's a lot of them that can actually help you go there at a lesser cost. But even then, there is an exponential difference between the cost that you have to pay for education in India and for the education you get when you're abroad. Also, it's important to keep in mind that the system might be slightly rigid here because there is a massive crunch for funding, or that's what we say. So at a very less cost, at the cost of let's say 6,000 or 7,000 rupees, most of the students are in a position to actually complete their BA degrees from DU or from DTU, and it's exponentially lesser. So because of that, a lot of these spaces in India are actually funded by the government. But in order to attain a similar funding abroad, you'll have to get scholarships. And getting scholarships isn't a very easy process. So if you're very intelligent and if you're very driven and if you're very patient and all of these things put together and you have a great CV and great guiding and great counseling, you should apply for scholarships. You can probably get your hands on Fulbright. That's going to fund everything from your airplane tickets to your food, to your hostel, to your tuition, and you should definitely go. But if you have a money crunch, then things become slightly more difficult. So this was the first thing, the first part of the video in which we discussed that why a lot of students want to go abroad and what are probably the merits behind actually going abroad for higher education. Let's come to the second part of the video in which we're going to discuss a different set of people who said that, you know, we went abroad, we wanted to get a job there, we even got a job there, but now we're unhappy doing that job. And so they say that, you know, if it's like a last resort, then you probably shouldn't do it. So the reason for that, which is being quoted again from a lot of research and a lot of different people that, and you know, a collective experience that I've sort of gathered from a lot of different people, is that you can get a degree. You can get a degree from USA, you can get a degree from UK, you can get a degree from Canada and Australia, but it's going to come at a cost. And if you've paid that kind of money for it, and after doing that, you come back to India, you don't get your work visa, you don't get a permanent work visa, you let's say work there for 6 months, a year, and then you end up coming back, it's very difficult to actually be in a position to repay that loan. So in India, you get paid lesser, your salary is going to be lesser, and because of that, the logic of numbers doesn't add up. So once that money has gone, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually repay it. So because of that, you can actually end up in a debt-like situation, which is not that great. The second group of people would actually say that, you know, we completed our degree there, they managed to somehow attain a permanent work visa, and they started working in that country there. And after doing that, after starting to work there, they realized that there's a lot of difference in how citizens that are born there, citizens of that very country, are treated versus how you are treated. So there is like a differential and a preferential treatment in all the places. So citizens who are of course born there would get faster promotions, they can even get better packages, they can have access to more facilities, and they would receive preferential treatment from their own country. Whereas you, on the other hand, would probably not get the similar treatment. So you might experience a sense of alienation, not in all the cases, but in some of them. And you might also, of course, get treated as a second-class citizen. So, keeping all of this in mind, let's move to the last part of the video. What are the countries that are more rewarding, and what are the countries that you can probably, go to get your education, and it's probably easier to obtain a work visa. So this is of course for the set B, second group of people who say that, you know, we want to settle here, we want to settle there, and we want to attain a work visa. So guys, in this I've primarily come up with 4 places because again, getting a work visa depends a lot on your language ability. So if you're in a position to learn the language of that country fast and very quickly, it becomes easier for you to just sort of get absorbed into the workforce, right? But if you're somebody who's always spoken English and you've always, you know, learned English, then 4 or 5 countries are at the top of the list. Canada, Australia, UK and USA. So this is where most of the Indians want to settle. So Canada and Australia, it's actually easier to obtain a work visa. But in countries like UK and USA, it might be slightly riskier. Like you might go there, you might do your BA or your masters, but getting a permanent work visa becomes slightly risky and slightly tricky. So however, if you do manage to get it, it's going to be a more rewarding experience. So yeah. So again, guys, let's come back to the crux of the matter. We've discussed a lot of things there here, and a lot of the things that we discussed was whether or not you should go abroad. So again, a lot of people say that you get better education. I think it's a lot about learning, right? So if you're somebody who's studying in India and you enroll in a university here, you can study at the fraction of the cost, and you can learn a lot from resources like YouTube, from a lot of different places. But of course, if you want to go there for the experience, then that has to be lived, and that is something that you can only go if you go abroad. So yeah, that being said, these were the two opposite sides of the coin, because even if you do end up going there, even if you do end up getting a work visa, even if you do end up getting absorbed into the workforce, you might still feel a sense of alienation. You might still feel like you're getting treated as a second class citizen. So that being said, I think that wraps up the video. But of course, you should not stop dreaming. If you're somebody who really wants good quality education, and you want to really experience education that you can get with money, then you should definitely go in for it. At the same point in time, if you're somebody who's very intelligent, very driven, very patient, and very passionate, and you want to make a change, a difference in this world, and you think that you can impact people a lot, then again you can think about going abroad. You can think about getting a scholarship. You can think about applying to places like Fulbright. There are a lot of other scholarships for meritorious students. You can do a lot of that. But yeah, so these are the opposite sides of the coin. You can let me know what you thought about this video. You can pen down your comments below. You can let me know if it was helpful. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope a lot of you who are applying to universities abroad do actually end up getting through and going there, and even the people who don't, it's perfectly fine. It's your dream and what you want to do with it.